Today we gather in memory of a legend, one whose voice echoed across generations, whose rebellion ignited a genre and whose pain, passion, and power reshaped the very soul of rock music. John Michael Osbourne, better known to the world as Ozzy Osbourne, was not just a performer. He was a phenomenon. Born in the industrial town of Aston in Birmingham, England, on December 3rd, 1948, Ozzy grew up in a working-class family with modest means. The weight of post-war Britain hung heavy in the air, and life was anything but easy. From a young age, Ozzy struggled with dyslexia and severe academic difficulties, often bullied and misunderstood. But even as a young boy, there was something about him, something chaotic, magnetic, and raw. He found solace in music, particularly in the haunting tones of the Beatles, and from that point on, he knew music would save him. But that road was far from smooth. Before fame, there were years of odd jobs and run-ins with the law. He even served a brief stint in prison for burglary, a defining experience that left a deep imprint on his soul. Yet it was this darkness that would later seep into his lyrics and performances, connecting with millions who also felt like outcasts in their own skin. Ozzy didn't try to be someone else. He bled honesty and vulnerability. He channeled his confusion, fear, and anguish into every note he sang. This wasn't just music, it was survival. This was the foundation for what would become one of the most legendary journeys in the history of heavy metal. A journey filled with both brilliance and brokenness, triumph and torment. And though many doors were closed on him early in life, Ozzy never stopped knocking. He never stopped believing. It was in this unforgiving landscape that he would meet the musicians who would change his life forever. Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward. Together, they would form a band that no one saw coming. But once it arrived, the world would never be the same. When Black Sabbath was formed in 1968, it was as if a storm had been summoned. With their debut album in 1970, the world was introduced to something eerily powerful, dark, doom-laden riffs and a haunting, unmistakable voice that seemed to rise from the depths of human despair. That voice belonged to Ozzy. He wasn't just the frontman of Black Sabbath. He was its soul. While other bands were singing about love and freedom, Sabbath was exploring themes of war, death, mental illness, and the dark corners of human nature. It was music that reflected the times, violent, uncertain, and brutally real. Ozzy's voice was the perfect vessel. Ethereal yet grounded, it carried a sense of urgency and doom that cut through the noise of the era. Albums like Paranoid, Master of Reality, and Volume 4 became landmarks of heavy metal. Iron Man, War Pigs, and Black Sabbath weren't just songs, they were anthems for the disenchanted. Ozzy became a symbol of defiance, of facing inner demons head-on. But with success came excess. The band spiraled into a chaotic lifestyle of drugs, alcohol, and interpersonal conflict. Ozzy, often the most volatile of them all, struggled to maintain balance between the high of performing and the low of self-destruction. Eventually, in 1979, the inevitable happened. Ozzy was fired from the very band he helped create. It was a crushing blow, one that could have ended his career entirely. But in true Osbourne fashion, he turned pain into propulsion. From the ashes of failure, he rose again. And what came next was nothing short of extraordinary. With a new team, a new sound, and renewed fire, Ozzy would begin his solo career, one that would push boundaries, shock the world, and etch his name even deeper into music history. But make no mistake, he carried the ghosts of his past with him, and they would never fully leave his side. Ozzy's solo career was a blazing second act, and it proved what many already knew. He was a star in his own right. Teaming up with guitar prodigy Randy Rhoads, he released Blizzard of Ozz in 1980, a record that would go on to define a new era of metal. Songs like Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley weren't just hits, they were declarations. Ozzy was back and he was here to stay. His stage presence was wild, unhinged, and unforgettable. Bat-biting theatrics and elaborate stage sets became the norm. He was larger than life, both a caricature and a cautionary tale all rolled into one. But amid the chaos, there was always real artistry. Albums like Diary of a Madman, Bark at the Moon, and No More Tears showcased a maturing musician with a deep sense of melody and emotion. Even as his persona became increasingly outrageous, his music remained sharp, poignant, and powerful. Yet behind the spectacle, the struggle continued. Ozzy's life was punctuated by loss and addiction. The death of Randy Rhoads in a tragic plane crash in 1982 devastated him. It was a wound that never fully healed, one that brought him to the brink of giving up. But he kept going because that's who he was. He was the Prince of Darkness. Yes, but also a deeply human soul, plagued by guilt, haunted by memories, and desperate for peace. Through it all, one figure remained a constant force of stability, his wife, Sharon Osbourne. She wasn't just his partner, she was his lifeline. Through storms of addiction, public scandals and personal breakdowns, Sharon stood by him. Together they raised a family, navigated the madness of fame, and eventually allowed the world into their private lives through the Osbournes reality show. Ozzy had become more than a metal icon. He was now a pop culture fixture, a household name, a father, and a fighter. And still, he kept creating, kept performing, and kept pushing his limits. Even when the world thought he'd had enough, Ozzy Osbourne lived a life drenched in controversy and resilience. His battles with substance abuse were no secret, and he never pretended to be perfect. He stumbled, he fell, and he hurt people, including himself. But unlike many who hide from their past, Ozzy confronted his demons openly. He spoke of his struggles with regret, but also with hope. He knew his life was a lesson in survival, a message that no matter how far you fall, there is always a chance to rise again. His honesty made him relatable in a way few rock stars ever achieve. Fans didn't love Ozzy because he was flawless. They loved him because he was real. Throughout the years, he continued to reinvent himself, collaborating with artists from all genres, Post Malone, Elton John, and even rappers. His music evolved, yet his essence remained untouched. In 2020, he released Ordinary Man, a hauntingly beautiful reflection on aging, mortality, and memory. The lyrics, especially from the title track, carried the weight of decades lived under the spotlight. You could feel his exhaustion, his gratitude, and his awareness that the end was approaching. His voice, though weathered by time, still held that unmistakable energy, that haunting vulnerability. He wasn't singing for charts anymore. He was singing to say goodbye. Health battles followed. Parkinson's disease, spinal surgeries, and public appearances where he looked visibly fragile. And yet, he never lost his humor, his honesty, or his rebellious spark. Even when his body betrayed him, his spirit remained defiant. In interviews, he expressed fear, not of death, but of leaving behind unfinished songs, unspoken words, and the fans who had stood by him all his life. And now, as we sit in silence and reflect, we understand that the pain we feel is not just about losing a musician. It's about losing a voice that gave strength to the voiceless, a soul who walked through fire and shared every scar with the world. The world is quieter now. One more voice has faded into the stars, and yet the echoes remain. Ozzy Osbourne's death is more than the end of a musical era. It's the closing of a chapter that defined the rawest parts of human experience. He was outrageous and misunderstood, poetic and chaotic, broken and brave. He was the Prince of Darkness, but also the voice of those who never quite fit in. His journey from a poor boy in Birmingham to a global icon is not just a rock story, it's a human story. He lived loudly, unapologetically, and he never stopped trying, even when the world doubted him, even when he doubted himself. As fans, we carry his legacy not just through playlists and posters, but in how we face our own battles. Ozzy taught us that it's okay to be different. It's okay to be afraid. What matters is that we keep going, that we keep screaming into the void, hoping someone hears us. And thanks to Ozzy, millions did. We will remember the wild laughter, the stage dives, the bat-biting headlines, the heartfelt ballads, and the unfiltered honesty. We will remember the husband, the father, the friend, the fighter. So today we say goodbye to a legend. But we do not bury him, because legends like Ozzy never truly die. They become the soundtrack of our souls. They live in every scream at a concert, every tear during a song, every teenager who picks up a guitar and dares to be different. Rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. You gave us madness, magic, and meaning. The world is better because you were in it. And now, as we whisper farewell, we promise, your voice will never be forgotten. You were not just an ordinary man. You were our extraordinary legend. Thank you for spending these moments with us as we paid tribute to a legend whose voice will echo for generations. At Wasaib Info TV, we bring you stories that matter, voices that shaped our world, and memories that deserve to live on. Subscribe and stay with us as we continue to honor the lives of those who left an everlasting mark on history. Rest in peace, Ozzy. You will never be forgotten.